All this EWXC racing action is proudly brought to you by Titans Racing in association with Sherco Motorcycles South Africa and Nucleus Mining Logistics. So this is the kickoff to 2021, the first official event of the season, and it's EWXC racing time. 30th of January, they always go for the first date, and everyone is out here raring to go. It's Wolwekloof, the 4x4 club here, that's going to play the host to over 250 riders, and everyone is desperate to start a full racing season and throw away everything that went down in 2020. 2021 is here. It's EWXC racing time.
Great entry list of about 225 guys, so we're thrilled about that, and thank you everyone for joining. So yeah, good support. The guys obviously want to race, they want to get out there, they want to do the racing, so here we are, we're ready.
Yeah, I think it's nice for a first race of the season to get a lot of entries, and yeah, the Oaks look excited, everyone's here, it's a nice vibe, and yeah, keen to get racing.
Yeah, today it looks like all the boys have pulled up. I mean, Heinrich Austria on the factory team, Luke Walker from McLaren's Racing. So all the boys are here out to play the cards for the year.
Feeling quite nervous, stepped up from the high school class from last year. Can't wait to race the 300 Sherco this year. Got some great sponsors this year. Sherco, Motul, Titans Racing. It's gonna just try and finish all the race distance. Finish strong, fitness seems good. And build on the next one.
Dueno, you know I used to always call you the king of the EWXCs. Does this mean the king's back?
The King's coming out of retirement. Yeah, look, I can't say I'm back. You know, we're on a new bike, the Sherco, and a new team. So let's just, you know, it's a learning race. Let's take the race as it comes, and let's see how it goes.
Okay, so they start here behind me in rows of 6 with a dead engine start. They then scream off, head along to the left. They do a small water crossing, a nice flowy section, another little water crossing, then the real stuff starts. The business part of the day happens in the rocks all along the crest, which is behind us. They zigzag up and down. They come across a road crossing through this forest behind us, and they will finish underneath this hut, underneath the big Michelin arch.
Fastest man at the end of last season, Luke Walker, was feeling good at round 1.
Yeah, look, I was hoping for a bit of rain, and we definitely got some. So it's awesome to be back racing again. It's been a long off season, and yeah, really excited, loving the bike and enjoying my team, and looking forward to a great season in 2021.
Last year was quite wet, so this year looks a bit perfect weather, I think. So just have to follow the markers, not make any mistakes, and go to the finish.
Yeah, it looks a bit slippery, but I think there's all these little loose rocks in this terrain, so like it's going to be a little bit tricky with washing away. But I'm prepared for it.
No dust guaranteed. 1 or 2 little water crossings, which might get big later if it does rain, but it looks like the rain will stay away for now.
The first race of the day was going to show how the track was going to be running. So the pro categories went out to test their mettle against this area. And you could see how much rain had come down over the last week, but there was nothing coming out of the sky. So it was prime conditions for the pros to go out and throw down the numbers. Walker and Oust were off the front, with Dueno doing the chase down on them. But there was the Pro B guys racing out there as well, with Carl Gibson, Reinhard Otto and Dylan Bauer dicing it out with elbows up the whole way through the early part of the day. The track was an incredible mix of lowland, flatlands and slick rocks up on the ridge and in the mountains. In the high schools, Maddie Wilson, who is more famous for pinning it as a national high school off-road and cross-country racing champion, was out there on the rocks, showing a clean pair of heels to J-Dog Jordan Cowley, with Liam Elkington doing a strong job getting the numbers for 3rd place at the start of the season. On the senior pros, Johnny Viviers did what he could and he got a 3rd place finish, but Jeff Patterson was one better and Ronnie Fenter was the man at the top of the pile, tagging his first win of the championship. 199 at the top of the pile. And then as you move forward then into the Masters, the situation was Ivan Roux hammering the nail, beating out multiple champions Sean Kirk and Pierre Borta getting knocked down to the 3 spot. slick sections always came after the rivers, and as the day went on, more mud and roost was getting dragged onto the rocks, creating more and more issues.
Hoe gaan jou dag?
Lekker, lekker. Ek is een van die masters op die route. So my age is nie my vriend nie. Maar dit gaan lekker. Ons werk deur die step-ups.
Baie moeg, baie moeg. Having fun at least?
Ja, great fun.
Arms are tired, man. First race in 7 years. Well, so I'm a bit poked. But keeping on, eh? Tortoise in the hay. Keep on going. Cheers, man. Enjoy.
All the riders out on the mountain, starting to feel the pace in the early part of the season. Join us after the break to see what went down in race 1 of the day. Welcome back to Wolwekloof, the 4x4 area, giving us our venue for the opening round of the EWXC Championship in 2021. Checking out the results of who was out there on the mountains still surviving. On the day, 10th place went to Carlo Renda, even though he got jammed up in the mud in the lowland sections. Craig Nicholson did a good job to stay nice and solid and consistent throughout the day and was the first of the single digits. Peter Abramser, classic racer, always out there on the EWXCs, bagged a number 8 finish just behind Etienne Esbach, who got the job done, into a number 7. Otto Horlacher, who normally would be chasing for a championship, had his issues on the day, a low finish down in 6th place. And then Ro van der Westhuizen, committing to the EWXCs, got himself a banging number 5 ride coming down the hill from Middelburg. Matthew Barker, so solid now and is aged out into the Masters for the first time. He gets himself a sweet spot in a number 4. Pierre Borta into a number 3 spot. We're going to see Pierre as one of the championship contenders throughout the rest of the championship as well. And then former champion Sean Captain Kirk, a 2 spot this time around after winning out so many EWXC championships in the seniors and masters throughout the seasons. So one man was at the top of the pile this time around, and the muscular figure of Ivan Roux got himself all the way to the tippy top of the pile as he also tags and ages out, coming out of seniors for a couple of years and now challenging for the Masters title. A win will help him out.
Talk to me.
Yeah. In your face.
Tough one.
Yeah, no, it's a nice get back out of December thing. It works you well.
While some suffered, the rest were chasing glory. Into the top 10, the sweet spot, going to Greg Gravenstein. Muscling his way through in the lowlands and then just good enough on the rocks. Peter Raposa got himself the first of the single digits into a number 9, even though he got jammed up on a couple of the more tech zones. Christopher styled his way all the way into a number 8 ride, those long legs paying dividends on the tech climbs. Jean Ballester was in a huge dice the whole day for a 6 and 7 position between himself and Francois Dutoy. TD Monroe, who has been out there for years racing with us on the EWXCs, walked away with a rock-solid number 5, just behind Isak van die Kerk. The double 5 was strong, but not as strong as Johnny Viviers. Johnny is a class rider and walked away with the 3 spot on the day. Jeff Patterson also rocking out in the Rekapan landscaping colors, the same as Ivan Roux, and he walked away with 1 position lower, 2 spot for him, because the champion was the 199 of big Ronnie Fenter. He knows this terrain well, and it did show on the day. He had a huge dice and great pace to take himself to the top of the senior pro rankings. From the seniors then, down to the smaller end of the age group categories, the high schoolers. Tyron Peltzer squeaked his way inside of a top 10. Just ahead of him was Kieran Brown, who should be challenging inside the top 5, so clearly had some problems on the day. Clayton Codd knows this area well, it's one of his training grounds, and he walked away with a number 8 ride, just behind Karl Grunewald. Camera crew getting up close and personal on the mountains. Keegan O'Hara, who has got an incredible skill package. He can do the rocks, he can do the climbs, he can do all the flat stuff as well. And that's why he walked away with a number 6 spot. Matty Battersby inside of a top 5, so that's a good start to his championship campaign. And then from Titans, Kevin Lee had one of his outstanding rides up into a number 4. Liam Elkington was up there, rocking his way inside of a number 3. Just didn't quite have the pace to run with the top 2. And second place on the day went to the magical 400 J-Dog, Jordan Cowley. Rock solid and only beaten by one man at the opening round. And that was Matty Wilson. Wilson coming off a back-to-back high school championship for the GXCCs and the National Cross Countries, and decided to swing a leg on the 150, and it paid off. Into the Pro Bs then, that gave us one of the biggest entries of the day. 10th place went to Anu Wagemut. Just up the road and breaking into single digits then was Michael Abramser, who was locked in a huge dice the whole way through the day. But 9th was where he was going to end up. Graham Trembling was on his own for a little bit out there, rocking his way to a number 8 spot. And then Oscar Masango, who's been with us on the EWXC Tour for a couple of years now, showed good form early part of the season to a number 7 ride, just behind Lionel Oosthuizen. Lionel's a classy rider, just finishing outside of the magical top 5. Sean Duprier took the honor of the sweet spot, getting number 5 just behind Quentin Grabi. The highlands and lowlands were a good mixture for all the riders. Carl Gibson got himself a rock and roll finish into a number 3 ride. Reinhard Otto was second best on the day in the stacked field of the Pro Bs, but the champion was the 611 of Dylan Bauer. Bauer's pace showed that he's not far off making the move up into the Pro categories. That's Pro Elite, just around the corner. Inside the top 10 for the Pro Elites was Brett Boys. He beat out quite a few riders to make that point as well. 9th place on the day in his first ride in Pro Elites, riding out of Titans on the Sherco, was Dumal Duplessis, showing what he is capable of. Anthony Abramser inside of a number 8 ride. And then into a kind of strange place on the track, no man's land we call it. 7th place ride for Paul Krobler, was in a dice early on, and then he had no one around him for the last couple of laps, so 7th was the highest he would climb. The huge dice that was happening for the number 5 spot was between Austin Stewart and Rob Garvey. These guys were joined at the hip from lap number 1, and it was like a motocross race out there, elbows up and banging bars the whole way through it. Garvey eventually taking a number 6 ride, Stewart a number 5. And then 4th place, another man that was just slower than the top bunch, was the reigning Pro Elite champion, Ryan Sequeira, riding one of the older machines out there until he gets his new ride. 4th place for him. The comeback kid was Duano Kleinams. The former EWXC multiple champion was on a comeback ride on a new team and a new machine. 3rd place on the day for Duano. The 2 riders that diced it out at the front then were Heinrich Aust and Luke Walker. On the day, they were predominantly separated by no more than 5 seconds, and it came down to a sprint on the final lap to see who was going to be able to pull the pin. It was a tough one to call, but eventually, 2nd place on the day went to Aust, which meant the last win of the season in 2020 went to Walker, and the opening win of the 2021 season goes to Walker as well. By 1 second. That's tight.
No, it was crazy. Luckily, I know Luke. I've been staying with him. He's my roommate last year. And yeah, I know his lines and he knows my lines. So it was a proper, it was a dice this time.
It was very close, I must say. Heinrich and I battled throughout the whole day. So that's always fun racing, and I'm just super chuffed to come out on top.
The last lap I saw, he's putting the hammer down and he's doing it properly. So I saw now I must just stick with him, and if he wins, if I win, I'm happy both ways, yeah.
No, I think we both had very solid rides, I must say. It's probably one of the harshest terrains I've ever ridden. So yeah, feeling a bit broken, but super happy to come away with the win.
Very surprised with today. Actually felt very good on the bike. The bike went well, the 150 Escabana. Thanks to Grant as well for helping me, and best way to start off the season, especially for Enduros. Wasn't too technical, but it was very bumpy day, so I had to work your hands properly.
I love this place. I come here, we train here often. I really like the type of riding we got here. It was wet today, it was difficult. It's in your face, you never let off. And I had Jeff, my neck is sore from looking where he was for an hour and a half.
It was quite nice to race again, I must say, Matt. It was like, we've been off the whole of last year, and you start thinking, shall I train, shall I do this, whatever, and you don't know where you are and how fast these oaks are and everything, and it's nice to see that you can still bang bars, and yeah, we had a good race out there today.
So here's confirmation of the results from race number 1. In the Pro Elite, Walker ahead of Austin Kleinams, with the reigning champ Sequeira in a number 4 spot ahead of Austin Stewart. Pro B's was all about Dylan Bauer, who hammered the nail ahead of Otto, Gibson, Grobby and Dupria. High schools was all about Maddie Wilson, a surprise package on the day, ahead of Jordan, J-Dog Cowley, Alkington and Kevin Lee, putting in a stellar ride in 4th place for Titans, ahead of Battersby. For the senior pros, Ronnie Fenter had a sterling ride to put some time into Jeff Patterson and Johnny Viviers, with Vanny Kirk and Monroe rounding out the top 5. And then in the Masters, Ivan Roux, strong ride for him and showing a clean pair of heels to Kirky, Buerta, Barker and Van der Westhuizen. Join us after the break as we pick up race 2 of the day at the EWXCs. Welcome back to the EWXCs from round number 1 of the championship in 2021, where we continue our racing action with races 2 and 3 on the day. And the second race, where we'll obviously see the Pro Minis go out and a couple of the support classes. What's the story for those guys?
It's absolutely the same. They do exactly the same route. They just do less number of laps. So the little guys in the Pro Minis get to do exactly the same route. But yeah, they might do 1 or 2 laps, where the pros are doing, I think, 5 laps.
Second race was going to send us out then onto the exact same track that had been ripped up by the pros. And I do mean ripped up, with the rains that came down in the week building up to the event and all the pros going out there. The track was chewed up, rutted up and nice and wet. For the ladies in the A-class, with Catherine Mostert, who hammered the nail and got one over on Leandra Williams. A small entry for the ladies to start off the season. Mostert, though, the best. 6th place ride on the day for the Titans junior Dav Clark. And just to remind ourselves, these little 85s run the exact same track as the pro categories out there. The Monroes always have a huge fielding coming into the EWXCs. Danny Monroe, Daniel that is, walked away with a number 5 spot on the day. In the technical and river crossings, the J69 of Joshua Monroe walked away with a number 4 spot, meaning we were climbing the ladder up inside of the top 3. James Fox walked away with that honour. Just ahead of him was Matt Stevens, who's got a lot of experience at tracks like this as well. So will be a key player to watch for the championship later on in the season. But for now, it's the number 1 plate going to the 95 of Gabriel DeToy. Takes the honour of the first win of the season at the EWXCs on the Pro Minis. In the clubs, Michael Battersby, the dad of Luke and Maddie, walked away with the sweet spot in the number 10. Number 9 on the day went to Frans de Klerk, who enjoyed his time out there on the terrain and in the hills. Remember, the clubbies had some of the slower times of the day, but probably got the best value for money out there, as we like to say. 8th place ride went to Sven van Pletsen, who found a couple of extra ruts out there that were just chewing up the track. Andrew Mostert, who's making the move up from Pro Minis from last season, made a nice move up into the clubbies to just find his footing. 7th place to him. Jacques van Niekerk was up there in a number 6, with Brody Griffin breaking the top 5. You could see from that shot there, the river crossings were getting chewed up and more difficult lap after lap. Mark Newman found his way through it well enough to just squeak a top 3. But Joss Alexander, a former Pro Mini rider, was also testing his mettle in the big bike categories, racing in the clubs and walking away with a podium in 3rd place. A good first outing for Alexander. Jean-Marc Silliers had a huge dice with Alec van Niekerk throughout the day. Jean-Marc walking away with a 2 spot, and Alec van Niekerk taking the Yamaha all the way to the top of the pile. Clearly, he knows his way around this area on the 33 Yami. While the wins were happening though, all the warriors were still out on the trails that were getting rutted up.
How's your day going? Tough, really tough. It's in your face the entire time.
The Silver Bees was busy, also another huge entry coming in. Kevin Verdijk walked away with a 10 spot. It was Eric Van Skiver in a number 9, and then Leonard De Santos actually pulled a really good number to get a number 8. Marco O'Hara was out there, one of the many dads that races with us. Xander Van Furen was loose as a goose, and Johan Clark got himself up inside of the top 5 and stayed out of trouble. Ronan Shapiro had the guns out and was muscling his machine all the way up the slabs. You could see on the day that there was less and less traction as the day got longer. Luke Gavea walked away with the first of the true podiums into a number 3 spot. And then the top 2 was Marnus Smith with a number 2 finish, and Muller Smith, top of the charts in the Silver Bees at the opening round. For the Silver A's, the pace was a little bit quicker throughout the top 10. Merrick Putkin put himself inside of a top 10 with JJ Oosthuizen getting beaten up in the lowlands for a number 9. And Christopher Swart smiles as ever inside of a number 8. Stoffel Berger showed true class on the climbs to get himself up there into a number 7, with Bradley Norkier inside of a number 6 on the C822. Made some sweet passes in the rocks too. Carl Lombard just goes about his business easy. Those long, rangy legs help him out on the tech zones. Tasty rider, good style. Byron Williams was just ahead of him inside of a number 4, with Rowan Johnson on the 293 getting a number 3 ride going, trying to stay out of trouble and ahead of the best of the rest. The top 2, though, were a 2-horse race between Dale Deeb and Jono Edwards. These guys were glued to each other the whole way through the race, and it did come down to who could hang on to the bars longer and harder on the final lap. In the end, second place went to Deeb. Johnny Edwards, a number 1 spot in the Silver A's. Confirmation of the second race finishes. The Silver A's, Edwards on top ahead of Deeb, Johnson, Williams and Lombard, just squeaking inside of a top 5. In the Silver Bees, the Smithies getting it done. Muller Smith and Marnus Smith go 1 and 2 ahead of Luke Gavea, Ronan Shapiro and Johan Clark rounding out a solid top 5. In the Clubbies, that gave us one of the strongest entries on the day. Alec van Niekerk got it ahead of Jean-Marc Cilliers. Joss Alexander showed his form in 3rd place ahead of Newman and Griffin. And then the Pro Minis that rocked the little bikes on the big track. DeToy beating out Stevens, Fulks, Monroe and Clark. And the Ladies A's was all about Mostert beating out Williams. Final race of the day was going to be our juniors. Going out on a smaller, but certainly no less technical loop. They would definitely have their own challenges, as the track would go through some of the more technical and slick forest sections in the lower part of the course. The Junior 65s was all about Justin Rom, Bradley Spencer and Caden Schrouder chasing each other around the marker, and the Ladies B's was Jessica Van Rossum ahead of Michaela Lombard and Kendra Lewis Monto. The juniors had a great time, but it was definitely challenging and testing terrain for the opening round. Remember, smaller wheels, less footprint and much less traction. And every single lap they went through, the slick rocks became slick. Seriously slick. In the 85s, Junior Oosthuizen had made the move across from cross-country racing to come rock hopping. Found it going tough, but still walked away with a number 7 ride. Noah Lewis Monto walked away with 6th place on the day after a ton of laps, getting dizzy out there, chasing Enzo Kuhn, who walked away with a number 5 ride in the 85s. Tristan Monroe got a little help from his friends to find the sweet spot through the mud splashes on the number 4 and was a classy rider on the day. But the kids went fastest. Inside the top 3 was Tyron Monroe walking away with 3rd place. Justin Rom, even though he rides a 65, still scores in 85s as well, as he is a double entry and walked away with 2nd on the day. But the fastest 85 was Miguel Cavina, smashing home his advantage on the J108 to take first blood at the EWXCs. Confirmation of the results then in our final race of the day, the 85s. Cavina beating out on Rom, that's an 85 beating a 65s, with Monroe, Kuhn and Lewis Monto and Oosthuizen rounding things out. In the 65s, Rom at the top of the charts, no surprise there, ahead of Spencer and Schrouder, and the Ladies B's was Jessica Van Rossum.
Everything worked out perfectly. The weather's held up. The riders have had an awesome lap of 15 kilometers. Fastest loop was somewhere around 35 minutes. Slowest one, I don't know yet, but the guys have had an absolute ball.